Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a second Super Bowl title in franchise history. And Tom Brady doesn't pass the torch quite yet to Mahomes.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers host the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football.
Brady, as quarterback fans, it doesn't get any better than this.
We have an opportunity to really dominate the game.
One of these teams is going to lose 2 straight, and the sky's going to be bleeping falling.
Ryan under pressure, he'll be sacked.
The Chiefs dropped a tough one last week for their first loss of the season. The performance wasn't up to their standard, but the beauty of sports is that it's a new week and a new opportunity here tonight to get back on track. And what better time to do it than on Sunday Night Football against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. We are 2 hours from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. This is Field Pass, presented by StorageMart. And Mitch, it's been a crazy week. Didn't always know where this game would be played, but here we are in Tampa.
The infrastructure the Chiefs had to prepare for 3 different locale. Here, New Orleans, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. They did a great job of all 3, but here we are. And again, a great showdown between Brady and Mahomes again.
And here's the thing, we're always so locked in on football, and we're going to talk all about football on the show here tonight, but we have to mention that some things are bigger than football, and Hurricane Ian and the destruction left in its wake is certainly one of those things. Fortunately, Tampa, as far as we can tell, was mostly spared by the hurricane, but not too far away, about an hour away, it was not spared. So we're certainly thinking of everyone affected by that storm, because some things are much bigger than football.
It's such a great area that's near and dear to a lot of hearts of the people in the Chiefs Kingdom. They either visit there, or they retired there, or they got friends or family there, and it got wiped out. When you look at Fort Myers, Sanibel, Captiva, all that area, it's heartbreaking. So we can help. I mean, you can see different ways throughout the week to help. And yes, it was almost less than an hour from here at the northern edge of the devastation, but we just remember those people first and foremost. That's way beyond football.
Yeah, that's well said. Now let's talk about some football. Let's talk about the Chiefs. And we'll start with last week against the Colts. It was a tough one. There's really no other way to say it. A lot of uncharacteristic mistakes added up in that game. Things that the Chiefs are not used to doing added up in that game. And when you make mistakes like that, it's hard to win football games. The good news about this team is they have the culture and the resolve and the character to hopefully bounce back in a big way here tonight.
Yeah, the Chiefs just don't make it a habit of those games under Andy Reid in 10 years. In fact, Patrick Mahomes has only lost back-to-back 3 times in his first 66 games as a starter in the National Football League. Tom Brady, on the other side, has lost 4 years in a row. He's lost back-to-back games, 21, 20, 19, and 18, and two of those were Super Bowl championship years. But somebody's going to have a back-to-back loss tonight. The Chiefs are trying to avoid it.
Yeah, and this is just a proud bunch. You heard it in the press conferences all week long if you listen to those. Travis Kelce's especially on Friday. They're proud. And when they go out there and don't play up to their caliber, that bothers them. And all they want to do is go out there, and they're hungry to show we're not defined by that performance. And in this game, it's Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady, number 6, the 6th edition of this matchup. It's always a good one, and who better to bounce back against?
Yeah, it's interesting. These 2 great quarterbacks have had arguably their worst moments against this opponent, meaning Patrick Mahomes, we know his worst moment was on this field. He's warming up right behind us, right over your left shoulder. Super Bowl 55 was no fun. He got pressured on 19 of 20 dropbacks with just 4 or less rushers by the Bucs. On the other side, Tom Brady's 5-5 against the Chiefs in the regular season. Think about it. Tore his ACL against the Chiefs in 2008. Got pulled out of the game in 2014 at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. 17, their party to celebrate their world championship got ruined by the Chiefs. 19, he loses to the Chiefs in Foxborough. And he would have had the worst interception of his career had it not been for Dee Ford jumping off sides in the 2018 AFC Championship game. So Tom Brady's got a lot of not-so-good memories against the Chiefs.
Let's create another one, hopefully, here today. I got here like 6 hours ago. There was no one else here. I walked on the field, and I was like, I want to win here so bad. And you know the players feel that way as well. Now, with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, what's so special about these matchups is they really have been the two best quarterbacks in the NFL since 2018 by a variety of metrics. So wins, Mahomes has the most, Brady has the second most. Postseason wins, they're both tied for the most with 8. Passing yards, Mahomes is first, Brady is second. Passing touchdowns, Mahomes is first, Brady is third. It's not just a Chiefs and Bucks thing. We're fortunate as football fans we get to see matchups like this.
Yeah, and when you look at what they've done in the first 66 starts, Patrick Mahomes is number one in NFL history with 52 wins and 14 losses. Brady is 3 games behind that after his first 66 starts at what it would be 49 and 17. But Brady had the 3 world championships by that time. Patrick Mahomes has the 1. But when you look at all the QB metrics, 218, and then you look at the first 66, 67 starts, it'll be the 67th start for Mahomes, you see that Mahomes is actually number 1 in NFL history across the board in every major quarterback metric.
And we're so used to it. Like, we can't normalize that, right? Like, that is not normal. It's incredible what he's done.
Just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we take it for granted sometimes.
No, we certainly do. And last week, the offense did some good things, right? They scored 2 touchdowns, but I think it's fair to say they were out of rhythm at times. When you go back and watch the film, how would you explain the offensive struggles last week against the Colts?
It's really the offensive line. I'll get to that even a little bit more here, but a lot of the games that were happening up front by the Colts, they played the wind-eye techniques. There were twists and turns by the ends and tackles, and the offensive line had a hard time picking it up. The other part goes back maybe to Patrick Mahomes. There were some underneath receivers to take. Get rid of the ball fast. Get the check down receiver. 4 yards in this game, Matt. 4 yards in this game is a touchdown against this Buccaneers defense. We'll talk more about it, but take what they give you. If that's 4 or 5 yards on a check down, take it.
Yeah, and last week really shows that the margin for error in the NFL is just razor thin. It really boils down to 4 or 5 plays in a game, and can you make those plays? If you can, you probably win, and if you don't make them, you probably lose. And the Chiefs normally make those plays. Think about last week. Travis Kelce usually catches that pass in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes normally hits the receiver down the sideline, like we saw with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He overthrew him. He normally hits those plays. Didn't happen last week, but they're hungry as ever, I think, to make those plays here tonight.
And let's jump into special teams here. Dave Tobe, and again, this is empirical. This isn't just you and I throwing out this opinion. The Chiefs have been the best aggregate special teams unit for 10 years. For them to get basically D's or F in 3 of the 4 categories last week, because we look at kickoff coverage, it was not very good. To muff the punt, to misjudge the other punt, to miss a field goal, miss a PAT, have the fake field goal that go completely off the rails, is not Tobe-like, so I look for them to bounce back.
There is a reinforcement at kicker here tonight. We'll talk about him in just a little bit. I do want to ask you about this Buccaneers defense, though, because it's quite a challenge for the Chiefs offense here tonight. This Bucs defense is perhaps the best group in the NFL so far this season. They've allowed just 27 total points through 3 weeks. They have the most takeaways in the NFL with 8, the 3rd most sacks with 11. They're the number 6 third down defense in the NFL. And perhaps the most impressive thing about them, they have the fewest missed tackles in the NFL with 13.
I think I've seen the 2022 Buccaneers before. I've seen this team before. It's the 2015 Denver Broncos. The bright lights of Tom Brady are so bright, it overshadows everything else on the team. Remember, Peyton Manning struggled in 2015, much like Tom Brady is this year. It's his worst quarterback rating of his career on throws of 10 or more yards. Sounds like Manning in 15. But why did they win Super Bowl 50? An unbelievable defense. This Buccaneers defense is the best in the NFL. They do not get enough discussion. I said it's like riding a bicycle through Jurassic Park. You have brontosauruses up front, you have Tyrannosaurus Rexes in the middle, and you have Allosauruses at safety. These guys are nasty, and they will try to rip the ball out of your flesh.
And who was one of the edge rushers on that 15 Broncos team? It was Shaq Barrett, right? And Shaq Barrett is here, of course, in Tampa Bay, one of 2 very good edge rushers on this Bucs defense. Really starts up front for them with Shaq Barrett and then Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, a second-year player. That tandem, one of the better tandems in the league, I think. They've combined for 19 pressures this year. And then also in the middle, they got Vita Vea, all 347 pounds of him, creating a push up front. Their defensive front is legit.
It is, and all of them. They have a culture here of all of them, and I know you're going to get to the linebackers in a second. Those are the Tyrannosaurus Rexes. They punch the ball out. The Chiefs have got to be careful this entire game, be aggressive, but even after plays of 10 yards or more where you feel good about yourself, we saw it today throughout the league. This league is teaching its defenders to punch the ball out. Nobody does it better than the Buccaneers. They have 17 punch-outs in 3 weeks. They haven't recovered them all, but they've recovered 8 of them. And 13 different players have punch-outs. Vita Vea had one last week for the Buccaneers. So you don't see defensive linemen get them very often. You will on this team. Golston's another one you got to be careful of. You protect the ball today like it's something that should go to your safe deposit box.
And they defend every blade of grass. That Vita Vea punch-out, I believe, was at like the 5-yard line.
Yes, it was.
The Packers were about to go up 21-0, I think. I mean, 3 touchdowns in their first 3 possessions. Vita Vea defended every blade of grass, got the Bucs back into that game. Now, they do have talent at every level on this defense. It's not just their defensive front. They have 2 very good linebackers, perhaps the best linebacker core in the NFL with Devin White and Levante David. David's been playing forever, I feel like, and White, one of the fastest defensive players in the NFL. And their secondary, pretty underrated and quite young, but really good too.
Yeah, let's take the linebackers first of all. Levante David, you Nebraska Cornhusker fans, yeah, that guy. Fort Scott Community College, forever, right, the Greyhounds. They don't play football anymore, which they did, but that's where he played junior college football. But Devin White, the former teammate of Clyde Edwards-Helaire at LSU, is a menace. He's a menace as a blitzer. He can cover. He plays the run. He does it all. And in many ways, he might be the most complete linebacker in this league right now. And then in the safety position is where they are really strong. Mike Edwards was listed this week by NFL.com as one of the top 10 safeties in the league. And his counterpart is Antoine Winfield Jr. Gave the peace sign to Tyreek Hill on this field in Super Bowl 55. They too can cover. They too will play the run. They too will rip your heart out and rip the ball loose even after you've gained 20 yards. This team, you have got to be so mentally and physically tough to play them. This is the best defense in the league, in my opinion.
Now, if there's a time they've been vulnerable, it's been early in games, right? They've given up 27 total points this year, as I mentioned. Well, 20 of those points were allowed on their opponent's first 2 possessions. And the Packers, like I mentioned earlier, almost scored on their 3rd possession as well. So early in games, for whatever reason, these guys are vulnerable. The Chiefs getting off to a fast start here tonight would go a long way in getting to a victory.
And this might be a night where Patrick Mahomes gets rid of the ball quickly. We talk about Tom Brady. He's releasing the ball now at 2.2 seconds. That's number 1 in the NFL and getting the ball out fast. That's why he's hard to sack. You can disrupt the physics of the throw. But for Mahomes, he might want to take a little bit of that Tom Brady page tonight because this Bucs defense is so fast and so aggressive. You get the ball out quick, get 5 yards, get 7 yards. Maybe you break a tackle and get 12 and then make sure you protect the football. But getting the ball out fast, finding the open quick receiver might be the key to success tonight. Early and often. Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that because aggressiveness is in the Bucs' DNA. They want to get after the passer. They want to blitz you. They want to get to the quarterback. And that short passing game is really what can negate that pass rush in so many ways. It renders it irrelevant because the ball is already gone by the time the pass rushers get to the quarterback. And look at Aaron Rodgers last week. The Packers, of course, played the Buccaneers. When he got rid of the ball in less than 2.5 seconds last week, he was 18 of 21 for 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, a passer rating of 135. He was awesome when he got rid of the ball quickly. When he held on to the ball for longer than 2.5 seconds, that pass rush got after him. He was 9 of 14 for 69 yards, an interception, a passer rating of 46. Just like you said, a quick passing game can render that pass rush really irrelevant in so many ways.
Go back to the Arizona game. That was not Patrick Mahomes at 7 steps just launching it down the field. That was getting off to an early start. Remember him hitting receivers early in that game, particularly Juju Smith-Schuster. So I don't care if it's any of the 3 tight ends who'll be up in this game, or Juju, or MVS, or Sky Moore, or any of the running backs. Get the ball to them quickly. If that's your first quick and good read, then take it. Because if you wait for the long read in this game, you're going to have to take some shots. I get it's the NFL. But if you wait for that long read, you could be in trouble, especially early against this Buccaneer defense.
And they're really good. Let's give them credit, right? But as our friend Sean Barber would always say, there is always a weakness somewhere on any given play on a defense. So hopefully the Chiefs can find that weakness early and often in this game. And that quick passing game, I think, could be perhaps that weakness. Now let's talk a bit about the Chiefs defense because they've been really strong to start the season. It gets overshadowed last week because of the final result, the final offensive drive for the Colts. But the Chiefs did some really good things defensively in that game. They had 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, only 259 yards allowed by the Chiefs. That was the fewest yards allowed by Kansas City since Week 8 of the 2020 season. If you play like that, you're going to win a lot of games. It gets overshadowed by the final result. But I'm encouraged by this defense through 3 games this season.
I'll tell you, Matt, who could be big in this game. And I'm glad we featured him on Under the Helmet this week on Hy-Vee Chiefs Insider. And to try to find it, there's a great interview with him that our folks at 65 TPT did, and that's Carlos Dunlap. 2 things. The ball comes out fast from Tom Brady. We've already alluded to that. That's empirical. But you can affect the physics of that throw by wingspan. Chris Jones comes into play here. So does Carlos Dunlap. Carlos Dunlap will play the run. He's great at it. He will not forfeit the scheme to make a play. He's zeroing in on 100 sacks. He can still get pressure, but he can also disrupt the pass here or there. And you also can get some middle pressure. That's where you've got to get it from Tom Brady. I talked to Spags about it this week. So is that a push from Chris Jones, Nadia? I'll tell you who else could be key. Turk Wharton is quick. He's very quick. He does not have the wingspan, but he can get quick in the A-gap to force Tom Brady into a mistake or some lack of perfect physics here. Or a blitzing Nick Bolton. We saw him come at laser speed last week against the Colts. Tom Brady does not like middle pressure. It's his least favorite thing.
He hates it. And if we can get a performance defensively with that pass rush like we saw last week, Tom Brady is not running away from pressure. He wants to sit there in the pocket, scan the field, and find his guy. If you can disrupt that timing, it goes a long way in stopping him. And the thing with Tom Brady this season and the Buccaneers offense, if you don't really watch the Bucs, you think they're just the Bucs, right, cruising up and down the field. But this year has been a bit of a struggle for this Buccaneers offense. They are averaging just 17 points per game this season. No big plays, only 8 plays of 20 or more yards this year. That's the second fewest in the NFL. They've gone 3 and out on 25% of their drives. They have only 5 red zone drives all season. That's the fewest in the NFL. It's crazy by a Tom Brady-led team. Now, they've had a lot of injuries, but they have really struggled offensively this season.
Only Denver's been worse in the red zone with fewer possessions. Actually, they had the fewest, and then the second fewest touchdowns. Denver came into this week with 1. The Bucs have 2. That's very un-Tom Brady-like. Key here, though, is Leonard Fournette early. We talked about early in this game. The first snap of this game will be as important as the last snap. They have not been able to establish Leonard Fournette early in 2 of the 3 previous games, and that's big. He gets all their touches now. Remember, they got a Kansas City kid, Rashad White, playing for him, a rookie. Played at Center High School for the Yellow Jackets and at Nebraska Kearney for a while. But they're just not even using him. So Fournette, either in the passing game or the running game, getting 75% of their touches in the run game. Don't let him get going downhill. Try to get this team one-dimensional, even if it is Tom Brady, and try to disrupt it.
They've tried leaning on that running game the last 2 weeks with a lot of players out. Fournette has 36 carries in the last 2 weeks. That's the 4th most in the NFL, but only 100 rushing yards. He's averaging 2.8 yards per carry over the last 2 weeks, and the Chiefs' defense was so good against Jonathan Taylor last week. Hopefully we get a similar output from them here. But for the Bucs, it's all added up the last 2 weeks into just not a lot of success. They had 260 yards against New Orleans and 285 yards against Green Bay. Those rank as 2 of the 5 least productive games of the Tom Brady era in Tampa Bay. Now, let's be honest, injuries have played a big role in that, both on the offensive line and at the skill positions. It's quite possible they get a lot of those skill guys back here tonight. We'll find out with Inactives here in just a few minutes. One guy we know they'll have back is Mike Evans. He was suspended last week. He's a big part of this offense, a big reinforcement for Tom Brady here tonight.
Yeah, and it adds an element. I mentioned that Tom Brady's throws of 10 yards or more, it's the worst completion percentage in his career so far. That's 23 years of data. But Mike Evans gives him a chance, because what they'll do, Mike Evans, it's about the fades. Think Mike Williams here of the Chargers, or the back shoulder throws. Tom Brady's still good at that, and you've got to respect Evans just going over the top of you. First of all, Evans is the only receiver in NFL history to have 1,000 yards receiving in his first 8 years, the only one. And his 76 touchdowns since he entered the league is number 1 in the end. And most of those come in the red zone. Most of them come on fades. But the back shoulder throw, so difficult to defend, is where Brady and Evans can get going. Let's hope that week off threw some of the timing off, because the back shoulder throw is all about timing.
Yeah, that's big news getting Mike Evans back. Even when they had Evans, though, this offense has struggled. And for more on this offense's struggles and the reasons behind it, I caught up with Pro Football Hall of Famer Kurt Warner earlier this week. All right, we're joined now by one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and now an awesome analyst on NFL Network. It's Kurt Warner. And Kurt, I want to ask you about this Tampa Bay offense, because we think about the Bucs, Tom Brady, it should be a high-flying offense, but it's really struggled at times this season. And injuries up front and at the skill positions are partially behind that. But I'm just curious, why do you think this Bucs offense has struggled this season?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, some of the different pieces that they've had in there, Chris Godwin coming back, getting hurt again in the first game. Obviously, Mike Evans not playing this past week because of the suspension. So they're mixing a lot of new pieces in there, not just up front on their offensive line, but on the outside as well. It just seems like everything is a struggle for them right now, and especially when they get down to the red zone. Nothing's coming easy in the red zone. And I've always been a believer that it's really hard to scheme open guys over and over and over again in the red zone. I mean, Andy Reid does it as well as anybody at creating some easy opportunities. But lots of times it comes down to, okay, my guy has to make a play against their guy. And, and they haven't had nearly as much of that this year because of some of those guys that they're missing. And so to me, it just looks like it's a lot more work this year for that Bucs offense than in the past. In the past, sometimes they get out there and it's just click, 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 boom, 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 big play after big play, and they're scoring a bunch of points. This year, they're not getting the big plays. Everything seems to be a struggle. When they have to put together a long drive, they always seem to have some type of mistake in there, whether it's Tom Brady missing a throw or some kind of miscommunication or a turnover. And that's what makes it tough in this league, is that defenses want you to take 10 and 12 play drives to put points on the board, because they know that's really, really hard to do without making mistakes. And with just a few big plays in their offense this year, that to me has been the problem, is they'll move it at times, but they always seem to stall out. And it's why they've struggled to score points. I mean, 19 points the first game, 12 points this last week. That is very un-Brady-like. But I think it is because all the moving parts and the lack of big plays is really kind of stymied this offense.
And when you watch Tom Brady, I mean, it's amazing. He's in season number 23. He's 45 years old. He still looks pretty good. But when you watch him as a former quarterback, is there anything different about his game, or is he pretty much the same guy?
When you watch him on the field, I think it really comes down to if guys are open, he finds them. If guys are open, he makes the throw. And so, that part of it doesn't seem to change. He still knows how to play the game. But again, the hardest thing is, different than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, when things kind of fall apart or they aren't on schedule, he can still find ways to make plays off of schedule a little bit. Tom Brady doesn't have that luxury. So he's so used to things being efficient and him being able to throw things on time and guys being able to get open schematically, as opposed to, just them creating big plays. And so when that doesn't happen, football's a lot harder. I mean, I can attest to that. When you play the game one way and you play inside the pocket and you play on time, and it's about, getting it to your guy in a particular time based on what a defense does, and those things don't play out exactly like you hope, it makes life a little bit harder for you. You got to make the perfect pass. You got to see it right on time. Sometimes you got to make tighter throws than other guys who can buy time. And that's really what it looks like right now. I mean, great example is the end of their game against Green Bay last week is, they got the touchdown on a really great throw with a back shoulder throw in between two defenders, to Russell Gage from Tom Brady. And you just realize, that was touch and go. There wasn't really a lot open. He just had to fit it in a window. They go for it on the 2-point conversion, and the same type of thing. They were going to have kind of a bang, bang, tight throw. Did they make the catch, not make the catch? A linebacker gets his hands on the football. But that's really what it seems like with this Bucs offense is it's really, really tough. And it's like a game of inches right now. And they're a little bit off. And so they're not making those plays as they have in the past. And if you're the Chiefs, that's what you want to do, is you want to make it hard. You want to make them have to play perfect to beat you. And they're just not playing that efficient right now offensively.
Yeah, if you look at Tom Brady's average time to throw this year, it's 2.22 seconds, by far the fastest in the NFL. So he's trying to stay in that structure. For the Chiefs defense, hopefully they can create havoc up front, get that pass rush after him, cover for just long enough, and hopefully get this Bucs offense off the field. Kurt, awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate your time.
You got it.
All right, great stuff there from Kurt Warner. We have the inactives for tonight's game, so we'll go through those. We'll start with the Chiefs. One that we already knew about yesterday, but just in case you didn't hear the news, kicker Harrison Butker is not going to play here in tonight's game. I think it was good news that it took this long for us to find out that he was ruled out only yesterday. Shows that maybe he's getting closer to being ready. But our kicker here tonight is Matthew Wright, making his Chiefs debut. If you don't know much about Matthew Wright, for Jacksonville last year, he was 21 of 24. He had a long of 56, pretty impressive, and 4 field goals overall of 50 yards. So Matthew Wright is our kicker tonight.
That 56 was a game winner in London to give Jacksonville one of their few wins last year. He looks like he ought to be asking your daughter to go to homecoming. This kid looks like he is 10 years old, but let's hope he's got the heart of a lion here. He's also wearing 19 tonight. So tell everybody, your watch party or listen party, this ain't the same guy. Different guy, but he's wearing the same number.
I like that mental fortitude, too, from that London game because, he kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. So we know he can do that. Hopefully he's not in that position here tonight, but hopefully we can count on him in this game. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he had an abdomen injury, was questionable coming in. He is active here tonight. So MVS is active here tonight. Mike Dana, he's out. We already knew about that one. Defensive end Joshua Kendo, he was sick on Friday. He was questionable. He is out in this game as well. Let's look at the Buccaneers. They had a bunch of guys questionable coming into this one. Almost all of them are active. So left tackle Donovan Smith with the elbow injury. He has not played since week 1. He is active in this game. Wide receiver Chris Godwin with a hamstring injury. He was hurt in week 1, limited all week. He's active in this game. Wide receiver Julio Jones, same deal, knee injury, hurt in week 1, limited all week. He's active in this game. And wide receiver Russell Gage, another hamstring injury, also questionable coming in. He is active in this game. Rashad Perriman at wide receiver, he was doubtful coming in with a knee and a hamstring injury. He is not going to go, but they're getting a lot of reinforcements. Let's see how effective they can be.
Well, they're going to give it a go. That's the thing. These guys, and the same with MVS. So he's in that same category with all those Bucs guys that you mentioned. The other one's Donovan Smith, the left tackle. He's going to try to give it a go. There was thoughts even as late as Friday he would not go. He's their left tackle. If he goes down early, look out, and the Chiefs could attack that spot.
Certainly, overall, it's Tom Brady. This game will be a challenge, but as we always talk about, our guys are always up for that challenge. And just like I opened the show with, what better way to bounce back than on this field here tonight against Tom Brady on Sunday Night Football? Hopefully it's a win. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. For Mitch Holthus, I'm Matt McMullen. Let's go get a victory.